My name's Hannah Dawson, just your regular retired grandma. After years of working hard, I managed to save up a modest pension. When my only daughter, Amy, got married, all I could think about was how I could support her a little more. I mean, I'm her mother. Flesh and blood doesn't just look away when things get tough. Seeing your own child go through hard times is a kind of pain no parent can ignore. From the moment Amy and Todd got married, I began helping them out with money. And honestly, I never really stopped. They live out in Boston, where everything is ridiculously expensive. Rent, commuting, bills, you name it. Their earnings just about cover the basics. So I did what I could to help. Then baby Mason came along, and with him came a whole new set of expenses. Diapers, formula, daycare. It just never ended. I didn't wait for them to come asking. I offered. I started sending $5,000 every month. It wasn't a huge sum, but it helped, kept Mason fed, and kept their home running a bit more smoothly. Time passed quickly. Before I knew it, Mason was old enough to start school. By then, that $5,000 transfer had become the most routine thing in my monthly budget. Some of my old friends would joke and say, "Hannah, you're too good of a mom, still sending money like that. Aren't you worried Todd's getting a little too used to the help?" I'd just chuckle and say the same thing every time. What's the point of keeping score? They're my family. If they're living okay, then I'm happy. People would call me selfless, but I never saw it like that. I was just doing what I believed any mom would. But looking back now, maybe I was just being foolish. Maybe to them, I'd turned into nothing more than a walking ATM. It was getting close to Christmas. The days were colder, but my heart was warm. I'd made up my mind. I was spending the holidays at Amy's place this year. I wanted to be with them. I wanted us to feel like a family. I started prepping for the holiday dinner 2 weeks early. I picked out the cutest little dinosaur sweater for Mason. He was going to adore it. For Amy, I finally got her that cashmere scarf she'd been eyeing for ages. Soft, warm, elegant, just like her. And for Todd, he's a coffee guy. So I got a friend in Oregon to send me some special roasted beans. I even packed up a tin of my homemade cookies and a small bottle of my signature bourbon, the one they make back in my old hometown. By the time I zipped up my luggage, the 2 bags were nearly bursting. I hummed to myself while packing, picturing it all so clearly. Our little family gathered around the dinner table, the turkey sizzling in the oven, Mason tearing into his gifts in the living room, Todd cracking jokes, Amy bustling around in the kitchen. Just thinking about it melted away the winter cold. That 3-bedroom townhouse had been theirs since they got married. They couldn't afford the down payment back then, so I wiped out nearly all my savings and even borrowed from my brother, Robert, just to help them buy it. I still remember the day they got the keys. Amy hugged me tight, eyes full of tears. "Mom, thank you. From now on, this is your home too. Come anytime you want." Todd stood next to her, quiet but nodding. "Amy's right, Mom. You're welcome anytime." I held on to those words like a warm ember in the cold. I thought I'd raised a good daughter and had lucked out with a decent son-in-law. I still lived in my own place, but every now and then, when I visited, they were always kind and welcoming. I never thought the picture I'd painted for myself, this warm, comforting image of mother-daughter closeness, could fall apart so quickly. 3 days before I was supposed to leave, I was standing in front of the mirror, trying on a new outfit I'd bought for the holidays. That's when my phone rang. It was Amy. Mom," she said, her voice unsure. Nothing like her usual upbeat self. "Amy, what's wrong?" I asked, already feeling my heart drop. "Oh, it's nothing big," she said lightly. Just, did you already book your ticket? She kept the conversation light, her words skimming the surface, like she was avoiding something, but I could hear it. The weight in her voice, the hesitation, that warmth I'd been carrying in my heart started to dim, like a cloud moving in and blocking out the sun. Yeah, everything's ready. I'm all set to head out, I told her. Is something going on? There was a pause. Then she said softly, Todd wants to talk to you for a second. I'm handing him the phone. Before I could say anything, he was already on. Todd's voice came through, polite as always, maybe even gentler than usual. But beneath that calm tone, I could feel it, a chill, a kind of cold distance that made me go still. Hi there, Hannah. Hi, Todd. My fingers gripped the phone a little tighter. So, he paused, clearly choosing his words with care. This Christmas might not be the best time for you to visit. It hit me like a splash of icy water, sudden, stinging, and cold. My throat felt dry. It took me a second to gather myself. What? Did something happen? No, nothing serious, he said lightly, like we were chatting about the weather. It's just that my parents are coming this year, too. They're getting older, and, well, they're light sleepers, pretty set in their routines. Each of them needs their own room, and since we only have 3 bedrooms, one for my dad, one for my mom, and the last for Amy, Mason, and me, there's just no space left. My head was spinning. His parents each needed a whole room? What about me, the mother who handed over her life savings so they could get that down payment? The woman sending over $5,000 every single month, like clockwork? The words spilled out before I could stop them. I could sleep on the couch. I really wouldn't mind. It's Christmas. I'd even be fine on the floor with just a blanket. I was still hoping, still clinging to the idea they wouldn't turn a grandmother away for the holidays. There was a pause, a long one. I could tell Todd hadn't expected me to be so willing. When he finally spoke again, his voice was calm, but I heard the irritation right beneath it. Hannah, you really don't have to do that to yourself. The house is going to be crowded and noisy with everyone here. It wouldn't be comfortable. And Amy and I, well, we've both been really stressed with work. We were hoping for a quiet holiday this year. A bit of private time. Private time. That phrase cut like a blade. Was that what my $5,000 a month was buying? A quiet home, with no room left for the person helping keep it all afloat? Todd continued, his tone still polite, like he was offering me something kind. Maybe this year you could stay home or visit Robert. His place is always so lively, and it's close by. On the surface, it sounded thoughtful, but underneath, it was just another way of saying, "You're not welcome. Don't come." My chest sank, hurt, confusion, disbelief. It all washed over me, stealing the air from my lungs. I forced my voice to stay steady. Todd, let me speak to Amy. I want to hear it from her. There was a quiet rustle, and then her voice came through. Mom. It was soft, shaking, like she was either already crying or holding it back. Please don't be upset. Todd didn't mean anything wrong. It's just, his parents aren't doing so well, and they really need rest. So, maybe you could just... Her voice faltered. The sentence never finished, and in the background, I heard it. Todd clearing his throat. A tiny sound, but clear as day. A warning. She never said, "Don't come," but she didn't have to. The silence did the talking. She didn't defend me, not even to say I could take the couch. She'd made her choice, and it wasn't me. All right, I understand. I kept my voice calm, using everything I had left to stay composed. Then I hung up, The moment the dial tone hit, the silence swallowed me whole. I sat there, frozen, like a puppet with its strings cut. My eyes drifted to the corner, where 2 suitcases sat waiting, packed days ago. The gifts I'd wrapped for them in bright reds and greens looked back at me, cheerful and mocking now, like they were laughing at me. Todd's words kept replaying in my head. Each of them needs their own room, over and over, like a broken record. And with it came the memories I couldn't block out. The early days when they were crammed into a crumbling rental with paper-thin walls and faulty wiring. I'd watched them struggle and couldn't bear it. So I gave everything I had, my retirement savings, the fund I'd built my whole life. When it wasn't enough, I borrowed from friends and family. I spent days handling paperwork, worn out and aching, but proud. Then came Amy's pregnancy. The morning sickness was awful. She couldn't eat or sleep. I moved in, cooked her meals, rubbed her back, walked with her at night when she couldn't settle. When Mason was born, I paced that living room for hours while he cried so they could sleep. And every month since, like clockwork, I sent $5,000. Even when I had to skip meals myself to make it work, I never missed a payment. I gave everything. My money, my time, my energy. And never once did I complain or ask for anything in return. Isn't that what being a mother means? And now this, a polite excuse, a closed door, a message loud and clear. I was no longer welcome. The more I thought about it, the less it made sense. Todd's parents. Since when were they so fragile? Last Thanksgiving, they were partying in Florida, laughing on the beach, sharing pictures from their tour group adventures. They didn't look like they needed rest. That excuse wasn't just weak, it was offensive. They weren't even trying to make it believable. This wasn't about space or comfort. It was a decision, a rejection. And then, like a cold whisper in the dark, a chilling thought surfaced. What if they never planned to include me at all? That idea hit hard, like a stone dropped into a still pond, sending ripples of betrayal through me. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't going to let this slide. I wasn't going to let them quietly push me aside, like some used-up burden. That night, I barely slept. My thoughts wouldn't stop. My body ached, but my mind felt sharper than ever. When morning broke, I grabbed my phone. Scrolling through contacts, I stopped at a name I hardly recognized. Lily Green, Todd's niece. We'd only met once, exchanged a few pleasantries, and added each other out of courtesy. I hesitated, then opened the message thread. I typed slowly. Hey Lily, do you know if Todd's parents have any plans for Christmas this year? I was thinking, if they aren't going to Todd's, maybe I could invite them over here. My thumb hovered, then I hit send. I sat still, phone in hand, heart pounding. 30 minutes later, Lily responded cheerfully, completely unaware of the truth she was about to reveal. Hi, Hannah. Funny you ask. They're actually spending Christmas at Todd's this year. They're super excited. The whole family's getting together. They even booked a trip to Hawaii for after the holidays. It was like a firecracker going off inside me. But instead of light, it burned everything. That was it. All the lies laid bare. Todd hadn't been honest, not even close. There weren't no rooms. His parents weren't sick. None of it was real. They just didn't want me there. To them, I was a hassle, an inconvenience, something they needed to work around. And I, like a fool, had offered to sleep on the couch. I was even willing to sleep on the floor. Anything just to be near my family. But they wouldn't even give me that. Not a couch, not a corner. Todd, what a performance. Really, give the man an Oscar. maybe even a standing ovation. He had the delivery down perfectly. It's just a shame the script was trash. I was shaking, fury crawling up my spine, humiliation burning under my skin like fire. I had to take deep breaths just to stop my hands from trembling. But this time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. I grabbed my phone and called Amy. Enough waiting, enough assuming. I needed answers, and I was going to get them. It rang for a long time before Todd answered. His tone was clipped, already annoyed. He didn't bother to fake anything anymore. "Yeah, Hannah, what now?" I swallowed the fire rising in my throat and spoke coldly, sharp and cutting. "Todd, let's not pretend anymore. Just tell me the truth. Do your parents actually need their own rooms for health reasons? Or are you all flying to Hawaii after Christmas?" There was a pause. Then his voice came back, tight and angry. "Oh, for God's sake, Hannah, who's been telling you these stories?" He didn't deny it. He was only concerned about who leaked it. That told me everything I needed. That idea hit hard, like a stone dropped into a still pond, sending ripples of betrayal through me. My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't going to let this slide. I wasn't going to let them quietly push me aside, like some used-up burden. That night, I barely slept. My thoughts wouldn't stop. My body ached, but my mind felt sharper than ever. When morning broke, I grabbed my phone. Scrolling through contacts, I stopped at a name I hardly recognized. Lily Green, Todd's niece. We'd only met once, exchanged a few pleasantries, and added each other out of courtesy. I hesitated, then opened the message thread. I typed slowly. "Hey Lily, do you know if Todd's parents have any plans for Christmas this year? I was thinking, if they aren't going to Todd's, maybe I could invite them over here." My thumb hovered, then I hit send. I sat still, phone in hand, heart pounding. 30 minutes later, Lily responded cheerfully, completely unaware of the truth she was about to reveal. "Hi, Hannah. Funny you ask. They're actually spending Christmas at Todd's this year. They're super excited. The whole family's getting together. They even booked a trip to Hawaii for after the holidays." It was like a firecracker going off inside me. But instead of light, it burned everything. That was it. All the lies laid bare. Todd hadn't been honest, not even close. There weren't no rooms. His parents weren't sick. None of it was real. They just didn't want me there. To them, I was a hassle, an inconvenience, something they needed to work around. And I, like a fool, had offered to sleep on the couch. I was even willing to sleep on the floor. Anything just to be near my family. But they wouldn't even give me that. Not a couch, not a corner. Todd, what a performance. Really, give the man an Oscar, maybe even a standing ovation. He had the delivery down perfectly. It's just a shame the script was trash. I was shaking, fury crawling up my spine, humiliation burning under my skin like fire. I had to take deep breaths just to stop my hands from trembling. But this time, I wasn't going to stay quiet. I grabbed my phone and called Amy. Enough waiting, enough assuming. I needed answers, and I was going to get them. It rang for a long time before Todd answered. His tone was clipped, already annoyed. He didn't bother to fake anything anymore. "Yeah, Hannah, what now?" I swallowed the fire rising in my throat and spoke coldly, sharp and cutting. "Todd, let's not pretend anymore. Just tell me the truth. Do your parents actually need their own rooms for health reasons? Or are you all flying to Hawaii after Christmas?" There was a pause. Then his voice came back, tight and angry. "Oh, for God's sake, Hannah, who's been telling you these stories?" He didn't deny it. He was only concerned about who leaked it. That told me everything I needed. You don't need to know where I heard it, I replied, calm and clear. Just answer me, yes or no. He went quiet again, and when he finally spoke, the mask was off. His voice was hard, cold, dripping with disdain. So what if it's true? Christmas is for our family. My parents aren't here often. Do we really need you there making things more complicated? Honestly, Hannah, don't you think maybe you're just a bit extra? That word hit me like a slap. My hands clenched. My breath caught between heartbreak and pure rage. Extra? I echoed, my voice cracking. Todd, I helped raise your child. I gave you the money for that house. I send you $5,000 every month, and I'm the extra one? Hannah, don't twist my words, he snapped, the hostility now clear. Amy's my wife. We have our own family. It's time for you to stop forcing yourself into things that aren't your concern. Stop inserting myself. That phrase echoed in my head like a drumbeat. That's how he saw it. Me inserting myself. As if the thousands I sent every month were just a fee to be tolerated. As if, even with that, I'd overstayed my welcome. Was I paying them to be allowed in their lives? To earn a spot at their table with silence and money, never being a bother? Suddenly, it all became clear. Years of swallowing pride, staying quiet, doing everything to keep the peace. All of it erupted inside me like a volcano. Todd, do you feel even the slightest bit ashamed? I asked, my voice shaking, but full of fire I hadn't felt in years. Who paid the down payment when you had nothing? Who emptied her retirement and went around asking people for help just so you could buy a house? Who was there every day when Amy was pregnant? Cooking, walking her to the doctor, rubbing her back when she couldn't sleep. When Mason was born, who stayed up all night rocking him so you two could rest? You say I interfere? If I hadn't stepped in, you wouldn't have anything you have now. There was a pause. Then he laughed, a cold, bitter sound. Hannah, he said, voice stiff with contempt, what's the point of dragging up the past? You gave us that money because you wanted to. Nobody asked you to. If you decided to help, then don't come back now acting like we owe you something. He didn't even flinch. He went on, his voice rising like he was the one being wronged. And all that money you send Amy every month, that's on you. If you want to help your daughter, help her. But don't think that buys you a seat at our table. That's not how this works. Don't try to control us with money. Then came his final blow, delivered like he was doing something noble. My parents worked hard their whole lives to raise me. The least I can do is make sure they're comfortable when they visit. That's what a good son does. Voluntary, separate, a son's duty. He made it sound so neat, so simple. Like everything I'd done, every dollar, every sacrifice, was meaningless. Just a personal choice, a gesture no one asked for, so no one needed to appreciate. He painted himself as the dutiful son, but me, the woman who helped build his life, I was suddenly a nuisance, a burden, not even tolerated anymore. The hypocrisy stunned me, the entitlement blinding. I was shaking, not because I had nothing to say, but because of how deeply his words cut. His cold indifference crawled over me like insects, leaving me raw, and in that heavy silence, the truth sank in. Arguing was useless. People like Todd don't change. They don't reflect. They don't listen. They take what you give and then tell you it was your choice. They never say thank you, because in their mind, you never did anything that deserved it. He never saw my help as a gift, just something I was supposed to do. And now, since he didn't need me anymore, I was being tossed aside, forgotten, like a used-up receipt. I took a long breath, pushing back the tears. Fighting him wouldn't give me peace. It would only take away the last bit of dignity I had left. And really, this wasn't about Todd. It never was. It was about Amy, my daughter. What did she believe? Where did she stand? And why, when I needed her the most, was she so quiet? After I ended the call with Todd, I just stared at Amy's name on my screen. My finger hovered, shaking a little, before I finally opened a new message. I took a breath, trying to sound calm and steady, even though inside I was breaking. I didn't want to be the one to destroy whatever thread of mother-daughter bond we still had. We still had Amy left. I just finished speaking with Todd, and my heart ached. I know things haven't been easy for the two of you, and I've never wanted to be a burden. But what I can't wrap my head around is, why couldn't someone just be honest with me? I'm not difficult. I've never asked for much. I just needed the truth. Just once. I wanted to know, what do I really mean to you, Amy? Who am I in your life? Truly. I hit send and waited. The house was painfully silent, so still, I could hear every single tick of the clock, every shallow breath I took. My heart beat loud in my ears as the minutes dragged by. The screen stayed dark, and the longer I waited, the more I believed she might not respond at all. But then, my phone buzzed. Amy had replied, just a few lines, but each one sliced through me like a dull blade, sawing slowly across my chest, peeling away whatever tiny bit of hope I had left. Mom, please don't be upset. Todd might have sounded harsh, I know, but he didn't mean it that way. He's just trying to make things easier for his parents. They hardly visit, and it's been so tough lately. The mortgage, the car, Mason's school, everything's piling up. The pressure's real. Please don't make this harder for me. Just stay home and enjoy the holiday. I promise I'll visit after New Year's. Same old voice, same vague sorrow. She didn't deny anything, but she didn't take responsibility either. No, I'm sorry, Mom. No, you didn't deserve this. Just soft excuses, a quiet attempt to brush things under the rug while leaving all the hurt untouched. She didn't defend me. She didn't speak up for me. She didn't even acknowledge the pain I was in. Instead, she sat there in the middle, acting like the one caught in between, like she was the victim, and I was the one making things worse. But she forgot one thing, the one pushed aside, the one lied to, the one left standing with a heart full of love and 2 suitcases packed with gifts. That was me, her mother, the same woman who carried her through every storm. I stared at the message. My fingers slowly curled around my phone, and a cold heaviness settled in my chest. It felt like something inside me broke, quietly but completely. That was it. I couldn't depend on her anymore. I couldn't even hope for basic fairness, a single moment of courage. She had become soft, like a doll stuffed with cotton, swaying whichever way Todd pushed. He spoke, she obeyed. He decided, she followed. She didn't even try to fight for a spot on the couch for her mother. I had poured my soul into her, my time, my love, my sacrifices, and in return, I got nothing but silence. Maybe this is what they mean when they say the death of hope is the worst kind of grief. Because that message, that reply, was exactly that. I turned off my phone without saying a word and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was gray and low, and the wind whipped through bare tree branches, sending dry leaves tumbling. They landed softly, on the porch, on the windowsill, and somehow right onto my heart, cold, weightless, but heavy all the same. So be it. I wasn't going anywhere this Christmas. I'd stay in this quiet, empty old house, alone, and maybe, for once, that was okay. Right then, I made a quiet decision. I wasn't sending the $5,000 this month, not because I wanted revenge, not even out of anger, but because I finally understood. There was no point. I'd already given them everything: my care, my savings, my time, my strength, and what I received in return were lies, cold indifference, and eyes that looked at me like I was nothing but a burden. What exactly was I still paying for? I didn't text them. I didn't give a warning. When the usual bank alert popped up, "Your monthly transfer is scheduled," I just swiped it away. No drama, no confrontation, just a deep, tired kind of sadness that settled in my bones. Had our entire bond shrunk down to a monthly transaction? All those years, I believed money ruined relationships. But now I see the truth. Sometimes, even when you never bring up money, the relationship was never real to begin with. And that's okay. Let this $5,000 be the test. Let's see what matters more: their mother or her money. As the days rolled closer to Christmas, the neighborhood glowed with wreaths and white string lights. You could smell cinnamon and baked apples in the breeze. People dragged home turkeys and clinked bottles of wine. It all felt like a perfect holiday card. But inside me, I felt like an old, hollowed-out house, filled with nothing but wind. I hadn't spoken to Amy since Todd's call. Neither of them had reached out. It was like none of it ever happened, swept under holiday glitter and cheer. Then came the 5th day, after the usual transfer date. My phone rang. Amy. Her name lit up my screen like someone knocking on a door I wasn't sure I wanted to answer. For a moment, I just stared at it, something heavy and dull settling in my chest. But I answered. "Hi, Mom." Her voice was careful, overly sweet, like she was tiptoeing. "How have you been feeling? It's gotten colder. Don't forget to bundle up, okay?" "I'm fine," I said, calm, distant. No warmth, no fire, just flat. "That's good," she said, pausing like she was unsure what came next. Then, like she was stalling, she added, "So, it's Christmas today. Do you have any plans? Maybe I could come over. We could have dinner." I almost laughed, but just in my head. Now she wanted to know how I'd spend the holiday. Where was this concern weeks ago? "No need," I said smoothly. "I'll be at Robert's for dinner." A harmless lie, one that kept us both from the weight of the real truth. She went quiet for a second, then began circling around with small talk, asking about hobbies, the coffee shop below, whether the big oak had lost all its leaves. I knew what this was. She wasn't here for weather updates. She was waiting for the right moment, and right on cue, her voice shifted, trying to sound casual. "Oh, by the way, Mom, did you forget to send this month's money?" There it was. I'd been waiting for that line. I paused, letting the silence stretch thin. Then, like it had just slipped my mind, I replied, "Oh, that money?" "Yes," she said quickly, voice lifting with hope. I took my time, let the pause breathe a little longer, then said slowly, coldly, "I didn't forget." Her silence came fast and sharp. I could almost feel the stillness on her end. "I just figured, with the holidays and all, you probably have extra help. Your in-laws are around. They can support you too, right? So I guess you don't need my $5,000. I let that settle. "And you were right," I added, voice like ice now. "I'm just the outsider, remember? Always interfering with your little family. Doesn't feel right, does it? So I've decided. No more money. I'm done." And then, just silence. So deep, I could hear it breathe. I didn't need to see her face to know the exact look. Stunned, scrambling, that kind of shaken disbelief that only hits when a line you assumed would always be there just disappears. The funny thing about forgetting is that it spreads. They forgot all I had given, my support, my money, my love. So I forgot the payment, not out of spite. This wasn't revenge. It was me finally responding in the only way they seemed to understand. After a long silence, Amy's voice finally cracked through. Thin, shaky, soaked in hurt and blame. "Mom, how could you do this? How could you just stop the transfer like that?" Her voice spiked, climbing higher and higher into a panicked, nearly hysterical pitch. "Do you even know what we're dealing with this month? The mortgage, Mason's school, the bills. We're drowning. And now you just cut us off? How are we supposed to handle this?" And just like that, any faint flicker of warmth I still held for her, already dim and fragile, was gone. She remembered the mortgage. She remembered the stress, the bills, the endless financial pressure. But what she forgot, what she always forgot, was who had made it all possible, who emptied a lifetime of savings to help them buy that house, who paced back and forth at night, rocking her screaming baby while they slept, who wired $5,000 every single month without fail. They remembered everything, except me. And in that moment, something shifted. I finally saw it clearly. Some relationships don't end in one big fight. They don't collapse in a dramatic explosion. They rot slowly, piece by piece, through absence, through neglect, through the silent ache of being pushed away over and over again. I hadn't changed. They'd simply let me go. Long before now, before I could say a word, Todd's voice came crashing in, angry and wild. "Hannah, what the hell does this mean?" he yelled, completely losing it. "Are you trying to use money to manipulate us? Is that it? Amy is my wife. You're supposed to help her. And now you just cut us off. What, to punish us?" There he was, unraveling. The same man who once told me I needed to back off, now screaming down the phone because the money had stopped. Funny how that independence he was so proud of didn't last long when the funds dried up. I held the phone steady and let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "Manipulate you?" I repeated, my voice calm, dry. "How am I manipulating you? I gave you that money because I wanted to, and now I don't. Isn't that the kind of freedom you've always insisted on?" I let that sink in, then added, smooth and sharp, like glass slicing clean. "And since your parents are staying with you for the holidays, I'm sure they'll be happy to help cover the bills. You said it yourself. This is your home now. No need for outsiders like me to be involved anymore, right?" Then silence, and right after that, Todd lost it completely. "You, Hannah Dawson, don't act like you're some sort of martyr," he shouted, his voice twisting with rage. "You gave us the down payment, sure, but my parents paid for the renovations. You think you're some savior. You just wanted to control us, and now that you can't, you're trying to make us crawl back. Well, guess what? We won't. We don't need your filthy money." He was yelling now, no longer rational, hurling insult after insult, like rocks, each one nastier than the last. His voice was raw, full of venom and fury, drowning everything else. "If you think, enough, Todd. Please just stop." Amy's voice broke in, choking on tears, trying to pull him back. But it was no use. He had spiraled too far, too fast. I didn't say anything. I didn't hang up. I just listened, like someone watching a movie they'd already seen, disconnected, floating above it. His words, though cruel and cutting, no longer stung, because I couldn't feel them anymore. Not because they didn't hurt, but because I had already bled dry. It was like watching a scene from a life I no longer belonged to. A grown man screaming into a phone, his wife sobbing in the background, and me, an old woman who had finally accepted the truth. Some endings aren't made of fire and shouting. Some are made of stillness, of a slow realization, of a quiet door closing behind you. And the more Todd raged, the clearer it all became. His fury, wild and loud, was like a rusted, dull blade, and somehow it still managed to sever the very last thread I'd been holding on to. The final bit of hope I had left for Amy, for this family, for the fairy tale of an unbreakable bond between a mother and her daughter. For far too long, I used to be scared of confrontation, scared of awkward silences, scared that saying too much might ruin everything. I thought staying quiet would keep the peace, but after being dragged through the mud by the very people I once would have burned myself alive to protect, something shifted in me. Once the mask fell, breathing got easier. At least I didn't have to keep playing the part anymore, pretending we were some perfect, grateful, loving family, pretending I was the gentle, supportive mother, and they were the appreciative children. Eventually, Todd's voice began to fade. All that yelling had left him breathless. The only sound left was the harsh, angry way he was breathing. I waited a beat before speaking, calm, steady, cold as still water. "You finished?" I asked. Silence, like he didn't expect me to be so composed. I let out a sigh. Not tired, just done. "Todd, earlier you said you and Amy are your own independent little family, and that I shouldn't interfere," I said evenly. "So fine, I'm listening. Starting now, I won't interfere ever again." I paused, letting that settle. "Since you think I've been using money to control you, let me make this simple. There will be no more money, not a single cent. No confusion, no strings. From this moment on, I'm stepping out of your lives entirely." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't even waver. And maybe that's what made it cut deeper, because the words weren't thrown in anger. They came from somewhere colder, firmer, final. I added one last thing, my voice as calm as before. "Don't worry, you won't be hearing from me again. I won't be bothering your little family." Then, Amy's voice broke in, panicked, shaking. "Mom, please don't say that. Todd didn't mean it. He was just upset. He didn't mean any of it." I let out a soft, sad laugh. "Sweetheart, I don't care what he meant. What matters is what he said. And more than that, you heard every word, and you didn't stop him." She went quiet. I could almost hear the guilt rising up in her throat. Her voice cracked, sounding so small. "Mom, it's just been really hard." "I know it's hard, Amy," I said gently. "But it's been hard for me, too. You've been so busy feeling sorry for yourself, caught in the middle, that you never stop to think what it's like to be completely alone on Christmas, sitting in a quiet house, 2 suitcases packed, and nobody coming home. You always said he understood, but you never once stood up. Not once did you say, 'Mom, please stay.'" Silence again. That heavy kind of silence that says everything you don't have the strength to say out loud. I looked out the window. The sky had gone dark. A few houses had already turned on their lights, little golden glows flickering against the cold dusk. In the glass, I saw my reflection. Calm, unfamiliar, finally awake. "All right," I said quietly, but firmly. "Enjoy your holiday. Don't call again. I'm fine, really. You don't need to worry about me." And with that, I hung up. I powered down the phone and placed it face down on the table. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt nothing but peace. The days that followed were quiet. Outside, the world spun toward Christmas. Neighbors wrapped their porches in glowing lights. Laughter echoed down the street as kids zipped along snowy sidewalks on skateboards. Doors bloomed with wreaths, stars, and red ribbons. But my home stayed still. I didn't hang a wreath. I didn't put up lights. Instead, I wrote 3 simple words on the welcome mat by the door. "Let the snow fall." That week, 2 knocks came. The first was Jane. the elderly woman across the hall. She brought her usual tin of homemade spice cookies, her voice warm and kind, even through the closed door. She chatted about her daughter flying in from out of state, her grandson tagging along, the whole family gathered by the fire to sing carols. I leaned quietly against the doorframe, listening to her footsteps fade down the hall. I didn't open the door. It wasn't because I didn't care. It's just, I didn't have it in me to fake a smile or make small talk. Later that night, I opened the storage closet and started sorting through old boxes I hadn't touched in years. Inside were things I'd kept, but tried to forget. Amy's wedding invitation, still tucked in its envelope, a glitter-smudged, finger-painted card from Mason, and a worn-out teddy bear missing half its fur. I crouched there, going through it all, when my fingers brushed against a photo, and I froze. It was a family portrait, taken 6 winters ago in their living room. Mason had just been born. I was wearing an apron, hair tied back in a rush, cheeks flushed from the stove. I was holding him, sound asleep in my arms, his little face glowing with warmth and safety. Back then, I thought that was happiness. That kitchen, that noise, that family. I thought it was the future I had helped build. I didn't throw the photo away. I slid it back into the bottom of the box and closed the lid. Not discarded, just sealed. Days passed. No call from Amy. I knew she was waiting for me to cave first, but I didn't. Not because I didn't love her, but because I finally saw the truth. Loving someone isn't the same as surrendering. I had carried their world on my shoulders for years, helped build their little life from the ground up, and in the end, all they saw was someone meddling. Well then, let them see what life looks like without the one they pushed away. I had heard whispers about what was going on. Todd's temper had always been unpredictable. Over the past few years, he'd burned through 3 different jobs, each one ending with him blaming company politics instead of owning up to anything himself. He told Amy to stay home, claimed he could take care of everything. But reality told another story. They were already 2 months behind on the mortgage. They sold their car and replaced it with an old, beat-up one with a cracked dashboard. When Todd slammed the front door so hard it shook the walls, the neighbors thought it was domestic violence and called the police. I learned all this while holding my coffee. The edge of the cup hit the counter and chipped. I stood there staring at it. Then I picked up the broken piece and tossed it into the trash. Maybe a little pain is what it takes, I said softly. That same week, I started rebuilding, slowly, practically. I was up by 6, kept the kitchen neat, had a single mug of black coffee and some toast. I'd write down 3 small tasks for the day. Do the laundry, mend the worn quilt in the hallway, try a new recipe for pear and clove shortbread. I responded to Julia's email. She'd asked if I might consider teaching a sewing class at the community center once a week. I'd love to help, I replied. When we talked on the phone, she sounded overjoyed. It means the world, Hannah. So many people want to learn, but no one wants to teach anymore. I smiled. It's what I know. If someone finds it useful, I'm happy to share. Oh, we need you, she said. More than you know. And something shifted in me. Something small, but real. It reached a part of me I thought had gone numb. Maybe I wasn't useless. Maybe I just wasn't needed by them. That night, I pulled out the scarf Amy had left behind. One I had knitted for her 2 winters ago. Stitch by stitch, the yarn had dulled. The edges were fraying. I sat on the couch with a crochet hook, gently repairing it. As my fingers worked, so did my thoughts. Soft, involuntary. Was she warm enough? Did Mason have what he needed? Was Todd still so angry? I hadn't sent money in weeks. But that didn't mean I stopped caring. I was just learning that care doesn't mean sacrificing yourself completely. Love didn't have to mean giving up your whole identity. I cleaned the guest room, put on fresh flannel sheets, laid out the electric blanket. I even set a small box of strawberry cookies, her favorite, on the nightstand. Not because I expected her to return, but in case one day it all became too heavy and she had nowhere left to go. I wanted her to know there was still a light on here, not out of weakness, out of peace. I didn't call, and she didn't reach out either. We lived in silence for nearly a month. No missed calls, no knocks on the door. I started to believe this was it, that the bond had broken beyond repair, that a mother-daughter love, once cracked, couldn't be fixed like old furniture. Then, one Friday night, something unexpected happened. I'd just come in from the balcony, arms full of dry laundry, when the doorbell rang, quick and urgent. I dried my hands and walked over, peeking through the peephole. There she was, canvas bag in one hand, an old puffer coat zipped up to her chin, her face pale, her eyes hollow, like she'd been standing there for a while, building the courage to press the bell. We looked at each other through the door for a long moment. Then she said, softly, "Mom, can I come in?" I opened the door. She stepped just inside, looking more like a lost child than a grown woman with a family. I didn't say welcome or want some tea. She walked in slowly, didn't take off her coat. Her eyes were rimmed red. She was carrying a heaviness she hadn't had before. "Mom," her voice cracked, hoarse, shaking. I can't do it anymore. Thought I could, but I can't." She didn't cry. She just stood there, head low, fingers nervously tugging the strap of her bag, like she was digging for words inside herself. "At home," she swallowed. "Todd lost his job. For real this time. No severance. Credit cards are maxed out. Mortgage is late again. And this time, we really can't pay it." I didn't say anything. No gasp. No surprise. I'd expected this long before she did. "That day, you didn't answer. I knew you were really done with me." Her voice dropped even lower. "After that, I tried to call again. But I couldn't. I couldn't face it. I don't know who else to talk to." She paused, throat tight. "I'm not here asking for money. I know you're tired of me. I didn't know where else to go. Who else would listen?" I didn't rush. I sat down on the couch and tucked the half-mended yarn back in its basket. I looked at her with the kind of silence only time and wounds can create. Then gently, "Sweetheart, if you have something to say, come sit. We've got time." She hesitated, then crossed the room and sat at the edge of the sofa, like someone on trial. She looked so small, so unsure, so far from the little girl I once held close. But she was here, and for now, that was enough. The house was silent. I could hear the quiet scratch of her fingernail brushing the couch fabric. Then she whispered, "Mom, I divorced Todd." "When?" I asked. "Last week." She paused. He threw a plate, smashed it on the floor, said, "You and your mother, you're both useless." Then he slammed a divorce paper on the table. She took a shaky breath. "Honestly, it started when you stopped sending money." He spiraled, said you abandoned us, said your only contribution was the down payment, that his family paid for everything else. Like that made them better than us. Her voice cracked. "But I remember, Mom. I remember who held my hand at every appointment, who was there when I gave birth. It was you. You're the one who stayed up with Mason. You're the one who cleaned, cooked, carried me through." She stopped. When she spoke again, her voice trembled. "I always knew that. I was scared. I thought if I didn't rock the boat, the marriage would survive. I nodded. She wiped her nose with her sleeve and said, Todd started staying out late. Got angrier. The night Mason had a fever, I called him, begging for help. You know what he said? Your kid, your problem. She looked down. Her eyes filled again. I couldn't do it anymore. I really tried, Mom. I did. And then the tears came. Rough, jagged, full of guilt and fear. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't defend you. I stayed silent. I know now. You weren't angry. You were hurt. I'm a mom now too, she added, her voice thick. And I finally get it. I didn't answer right away. I just sat there, watching her break open. Then I got up and went to the kitchen. When I returned, I handed her a glass of water. Here, I said softly. Take a sip. Let yourself breathe. She took it, her hands trembling as she brought the glass to her lips. I wasn't angry, I told her as I sat again. I was just tired. Tired in a way I didn't know how to explain. She looked at me, eyes full of sorrow, tears streaming freely. You used to say, Mom's your safety net. I spoke softly. But somewhere along the way, that safety net stopped feeling like a comfort and started to feel more like an ATM. Nobody asked how I was doing. They just asked if I was still giving. Every word came out quiet, but intentional, and it landed. I let you in tonight because you're my daughter. That part will never change. She nodded quickly, wiping her face, but I added, the hurt you caused me, it's not something that disappears overnight. I looked her in the eyes. It'll take time. We'll have to rebuild. She nodded again, this time through sobs, but her tears carried a new kind of weight, something closer to understanding and release. Mom, she said, her voice shaking, I don't want you to keep living that way. Tired, alone. I'll figure it out. I'll find a job. I won't depend on you like before. Then she reached out, collapsing into my arms like she used to when she was little, when nightmares or scraped knees were her biggest worries. I love you, Mom. I was just so scared. I didn't know how to keep it all together. I held her gently, stroked her back and whispered, it's okay to fall apart sometimes, but you can't build your life around leaning on someone else. Do you understand? She nodded against my shoulder, silent and tight. I didn't say anything more. I just let her cry. Then, slowly, I got up and walked into the kitchen. I took down the honey jar, set the kettle on the stove, and began making her a warm drink. Outside, the wind whipped through bare trees. But inside, there was a flicker of warmth again, a light that hadn't been lit in a long, long time. Amy stayed for 3 days. Not moved back in, just temporarily staying. That's how she put it, and I didn't challenge it. She hadn't brought much, just a crossbody bag barely filled. Not even a full change of clothes. I laid out clean pajamas for her and found that old scarf I had knit for her years ago. The one she once loved as a little girl, but later dismissed as ugly and stuffed away. I never threw it out. That first night, she barely spoke, ate her dinner quietly, eyes fixed on her plate. She didn't even mention Mason. After we ate, I brewed a pot of tea and added a little extra honey to her cup. She curled into the corner of the couch, cradling the mug like it was the only thing holding her together. Mom, she murmured, thank you for letting me come back. I looked at her face, thinner than I remembered, dark circles under her eyes. I nodded and said, I'm your mother, not your landlord. You don't have to tiptoe around me, sweetheart. Her eyes glossed over again, and she lowered her head, taking a sip of tea to mask her tears. I didn't speak further, not out of anger, but because I knew if I softened too soon, she might slide right back into that version of herself who only knew how to lean. And I wasn't that woman anymore, the mother who used to break herself just to keep her daughter standing. I had my own life now. I volunteered once a week at the community center, helping Julia run a sewing class. A group of young women gathered around me, eager to learn about stitches and how to mend old fabrics. The way they listened, the way they looked at me, with curiosity and respect, it felt like sunlight after a long, cold winter. I didn't need to give endlessly to prove I mattered. I didn't have to be anyone's rescuer to have value. Amy spent her days job hunting, coming home in the evenings, tired and quiet. She didn't ask me for money like she used to, didn't rummage through the pantry, complaining, "Why don't you ever keep anything nice to eat, Mom?" Instead, she asked things like, "Are you feeling okay? Getting enough rest?" And hearing those questions, it meant more to me than I realized. One evening, she came home late, didn't even take off her shoes, just sat down by the door and sighed. "How was it?" I asked. She shook her head. "Sent out 7, 8 resumes. Got interviews at 2 places, but they both said there's a lot of competition. I have to wait." She hesitated before adding, "I've never looked for a job by myself before. It was always you. Then, Todd. I don't even know what I'm good at." I didn't sugarcoat it. "It's time," I said. "You're still young. It's okay to start from the beginning." She nodded. "I tried a convenience store. The manager asked if I had cashier experience, and I didn't even know how to answer. I always thought I was a good wife, a decent mom, but without you or Todd, I couldn't even handle a register." She laughed bitterly, but it didn't last. "Mom, I know you looked down on how I lived before. I don't want to go back to that." I handed her a glass of water. "It's enough that you know that now." She took a sip, but her eyes flicked up nervously. "Do you not want me to stay?" I met her gaze. "It's not that," I said calmly. "But let's be clear. This isn't a place to hide from life, and I'm not here to carry your weight again." She looked down. "I understand." I nodded. "I won't give you much help this time, but I'm not turning you away either. You can stay for now, long enough to catch your breath, to plan your next steps. But those decisions, they're yours to make." She bit her lip. "What about Mason? He's with Todd?" I asked. She nodded, voice low. "Todd's mom offered to take him for a few days. But I don't trust her." I didn't respond right away. Deep down, I knew it wouldn't be long before that child would end up back here. Todd could barely manage himself, let alone a 6-year-old boy. "Focus on getting stable," I said quietly. "You're not the only one responsible for that boy. But you do need to be someone he can count on, someone who stands tall." She sat there for a while, quiet, taking it all in. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay." I could see it now. Not just guilt, but a real shift. A change that wouldn't come from begging or promises. A change that had to be earned step by step. And this time, I wouldn't rush in holding the umbrella. I'd stay nearby, but I'd wait to see if she could learn to stand in the rain. Wednesday morning, before the sun even came up, the doorbell rang. I was tying on my apron when I opened the door and saw Todd, annoyed expression on his face. Mason slumped in his arms. "He's got a fever," he said flatly. "You two figure it out." Before I could say a word, he shoved the boy into my arms and walked away. "Mason." I looked down, his face flushed, lips dry, his thin jacket hanging open. His little nose was red and runny, with dried lines of mucus crusted under both nostrils. I brought him inside and called out for Amy. The moment she saw him, her body buckled. "Hast!" she cried, rushing over, taking him from my arms, peeling off his clothes with shaking hands. "What happened?" "What happened to you?" she sobbed, wiping his face. "How could your dad just— How could he?" She couldn't finish the sentence. The words dissolved in her throat. I didn't comfort her. I just went into the kitchen, boiled water, found the fever patches, pulled out the children's medicine I always kept on hand. Just in case, Mason lay limp in her arms, eyes half closed. "Mama," he whimpered. "I'm cold," Amy cried softly, rocking him. "I'm here, baby. Mommy's here. Don't be scared." After he took the medicine and was tucked in under 2 thick blankets, the house was quiet again. Amy sat on the couch, tears still fresh, staring into space, like someone who had aged 10 years overnight. "What's your plan?" I asked. She stayed silent for a long while. "I just want something steady," she whispered. "I'm not thinking big. I just want to take care of Mason." "It won't be easy," I said gently. "You'll work by day, take care of him at night. No one's going to carry that weight for you. Are you ready for that?" She nodded, but this time there was something new in her eyes. Not panic, not helplessness, responsibility. "You can stay here a bit longer," I said. "But Mason, he's your responsibility. I'll help here and there during the day. But I'm not your nanny. I have a life too." She hesitated, then nodded again. "I won't treat you like my babysitter anymore." It almost sounded like a joke, but I knew she meant it. Change doesn't come overnight. She'd spent so many years depending on others to catch her fall. Learning to stand alone wasn't something good intentions could fix overnight. That afternoon, she walked in from a job interview and dropped wordlessly into a chair. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner when I heard her in the living room, on the phone, her voice rising. "I'm not trying to default. I just didn't have the money this week. You can't freeze my account like that. I need it for my kid's medicine. Hello." The call cut off. She crouched by the sofa, arms wrapped around her head, and stayed like that. I didn't say a word. Not because I didn't care, but because it was hers to deal with now. Her problem to face. Her mess to clean up. I couldn't keep diving in to save her. Not when I was just learning to stay afloat myself. At dinner, she barely said anything. I didn't push. After we cleared the table, she stood beside me, drying the dishes, quiet and thoughtful. Then, suddenly, she asked, "Mom, was I always this selfish?" A pause. "Did you want to cut me off for a long time?" I looked at her and said, "It wasn't something I wanted to do. It was something I had to." She stopped, dish in hand. "Love isn't a paycheck someone's entitled to," I continued. "It's not a given. It's something we build through respect, through boundaries. It's not about needing something and expecting someone else to always provide it." Her eyes began to fill again. I dried my hands and stepped closer. "Amy, this is your second chance. You'll mess up. You'll fall again. But you can't keep expecting someone else to clean up after you. One day, when you're strong, you'll look back and be thankful I didn't keep rescuing you. You'll be grateful I finally stopped catching you every time." She bit her lip and nodded. "Thanks for still letting me in, Mom." I gave a small smile. "I didn't let you in. I'm just getting to know you again." She laughed through her tears, and I smiled too. In that moment, I felt the space between us shift. Not disappear, but soften. We weren't going back to the way things were. We were starting something new, not built on imbalance, but on mutual growth, mutual respect. I placed a warm bowl of soup in front of her. "Eat. You've got another interview tomorrow. You can't negotiate on an empty stomach." She wiped her cheeks, still smiling. "Hey, Mom, I will." And this time, I believed her. The morning Mason's fever broke. Sunlight poured through the curtains and lit up his little face. He blinked at me and smiled. "Good morning, Grandma," he whispered, voice scratchy, but eyes clear, like nothing had happened at all. I touched his forehead. No more heat, just soft warmth. Peace. In the kitchen, Amy was moving about, still a little clumsy, but better. She stirred a pot with one hand, phone in the other, reading directions aloud. "Soak the rice for 30 minutes. Don't add the salt too early." I sipped tea from the living room, listening to her muttering, not interrupting, not correcting, because real change doesn't come through big apologies. It comes in quiet mornings like that, lived one after another, when no one's watching. Not long after Mason got better, Amy found a job, front desk at a used furniture store. Not glamorous, not big money, but steady. Her boss was a quiet, sharp-edged woman in her 50s. "She reminds me of you," Amy told me that night. "Doesn't say much, but she gets things done." I just nodded. Over dinner, she suddenly looked up. "Mom, can I stay here a bit longer?" I smiled. "If you want to, I'm glad to have you." She blinked, surprised by how easily I said it, then nodded, her eyes filling with quiet relief. We didn't say much after that, but the meal, simple and calm, felt more like a reunion than any holiday we'd ever had. The days after that moved easily. I kept teaching at the community center, reading, cooking, tending to my little balcony garden. Sometimes, I took Mason to the library. He was getting into puzzles and drawing. Every time he finished a picture, he'd run to me, beaming. "Grandma, look, I drew you." I taped his wobbly sketches on the fridge. They made me laugh every time. Amy stopped saying, "I'm sorry," so much. Instead, she started saying, "Thank you." And maybe that's what family should really sound like. Not a cycle of guilt and forgiveness. Just care, presence. Two grown people trying to live kind, decent lives side by side. One afternoon, I got a call from an old friend. She asked if I'd thought about moving back to my hometown. Said the neighbors were organizing a gathering and wanted to see me. I paused, then gently declined. I didn't want to go back to a place where everyone only saw me as that good mother, because I'm not just a mother anymore, not just someone else's foundation. That evening, I was out on the balcony repotting plants, dirt packed under my fingernails, wind tugging at my sweater. When I looked up, Amy was standing in the doorway, watching me. "Mom," she said softly, "if you ever want to travel or go somewhere, I could come with you." I smiled. "If I want to go somewhere, I'll go by myself." She nodded, didn't argue. She understood. Not because I didn't love her, but because I finally understood what love really means. Loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. It means having the strength to say, "I want a life of my own too." 2 months later, she told me she was moving out. I didn't stop her. I just asked, "Are you sure this time? Have you really thought about it?" She nodded. "Mom, remember the house Todd and I used to live in?" I smiled faintly. "Of course. I gave up my share," she said. "Let Todd handle the mortgage if he wants to stay. I rented a small apartment near Mason's school. We'll live there now, and you're always welcome to visit." I nodded, didn't ask for details. Yes, I paid for that house, but that's old business. Bringing it up now would only tear open wounds that had finally begun to heal. 2 months later, she told me she was moving out. I didn't stop her. I just asked, "Are you sure this time? Have you really thought about it?" She nodded. "Mom, remember the house Todd and I used to live in?" I smiled faintly. "Of course. I gave up my share," she said. "Let Todd handle the mortgage if he wants to stay. I rented a small apartment near Mason's school. We'll live there now, and you're always welcome to visit." I nodded. Didn't ask for details. Yes, I paid for that house. But that's old business. Bringing it up now would only tear open wounds that had finally begun to heal. Sometimes, the real healing isn't in chasing what you're owed. It's in seeing the debt for what it is, seeing the debtor for who they are, and letting it all go. I watched them leave, walked them to the door, waved as they turned the corner. And in that moment, there were no tears, no grief, just peace. I closed the door, turned back toward the kitchen, and brewed myself a pot of tea. The living room was still again, not empty, just quiet. A quiet I had made space for, a quiet I had chosen. Looking back, I see it all so clearly now. This journey was never about breaking away in some grand, dramatic fashion. It was about slowly, gently, undoing every tangled knot life had tied around me. Not ripping, not shouting, just letting go. Letting go of guilt, letting go of control, letting go of the need to be everything for everyone in order to feel worthy. I don't want love that comes with a scoreboard, and I won't spend the rest of my life trading peace for obligation. I know she'll face hardships again. Maybe one day she'll come back needing something. If I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll say no, with kindness, not guilt. Because now I know I'm not a crutch, not a backup plan, not someone's automatic second chance. I'm me, a woman who stands on her own feet. And in this life I have left, the first person I choose to love is me. If this story touched something in you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever had to let go of someone you love in order to find yourself again? Share your experience in the comments. I read every one. And if this reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, don't forget to share. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for holding space for stories that matter. Until next time, take care of your heart, and remember, your peace is not a luxury, it's a right.